us slow. Grip held tight, the storm starts to grow. We sharpen the truth, ready to explode. Can't call out rhinos if you're a rhino. Speak with them like the beat's not about the tone. Oh, cash just saints blink while the crowd loses sane. Oh, I spit raw pages, every line a broken homo. Can't be bought, can't be sold. Gave my soul and truth not gold. We raise the flags while the fate keeps cold.
Welcome, guys, to Can't Be Bald Podcast. And Maurice and I have a special guest with us tonight, Sheriff Richard Mack. Welcome to Can't Be Bald Podcast, Sheriff. But, we've met several times, but as I'm sitting here, I go over your resume, as it were. Supreme Court wins, former Graham County, Arizona Sheriff, founder of the Constitutional Sheriff and Peace Officers Association, and driving force behind the 10th Amendment revival in law enforcement. I look at this and I'm like, just as me, when I'm retired and I'm done, I'm probably just going fishing. And here you are trying to save the world.
Well, I've tried to retire a few times, but it just hasn't been in the cards. And so the good news about that is I can take off anytime I want, usually, unless the real boss tells me, no, we're too busy to take off with the grandkids right now. But and speaking of her, we'll be married 51 years in about 2 weeks.
Well, congratulations, 51 years. That's the dream, isn't it?
Last year was the big 5-0, but I just had a man by the name of Bill Rogers stop by my house this afternoon, and he did an interview with me right here in my house. And I'm in my office right now, but it was too small, so he wanted more elbow room. And this is perfect for doing a podcast, but he had to set up his camera and he wanted better lighting and so on and so. But he wanted to hear the story about how I sued the federal government, how I sued the Clintons, and he really liked the idea of the Clintons. And usually I get to tell the one-liner. I sued the Clintons, I beat them at the U.S. Supreme Court, and I lived to tell about it. Now, how's that for a miracle?
Yeah, you and Nate Kane both. So obviously Nate's the Uranium One guy, and he walked away barely. But the two of you are the only two I know.
Well, and I have another joke about Clinton, too. Of all the people that sued Bill Clinton, I was the only one to do so on a non-sexual matter. Yeah.
You look, just to go down that road real quick while we're there, let's just stop and visit a while. Did you see the deposition at all? Any clips of it? I know Lauren Boebert, she put some clips out. They didn't want to testify, but she recorded behind the scenes and started posting some of it. But what did you think of that?
Wait, and who was it?
The Clintons, when they did the Epstein
deposition.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Oh, yeah. Well, Hillary's been so full of crap ever since she married for political convenience, Billy Bob.
Yeah, I heard that.
And I think Billy Bob would be fun to sit around and jive with. And I don't drink, but if you were to sit around and have a beer, he'd be really a fun guy. But Hillary,
I'd have some stories.
She's like scratching the chalkboard with your fingernails every time and I never thought that anyone would have a worse cackle than that woman. But I'm afraid Kamala has beat her.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I never heard a woman say so much and so little at the same exact time.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got it down to an art.
Yeah, she really does. And she's hilarious doing it. But the problem is she's not trying to be funny.
No, she means it.
We both know what I'm talking about. Don't you love that line from her? And we both know what I'm talking about.
Or unburdened by what has been, or any one of a numerous amounts. I mean, I remember back in the day we had those things called Bushisms, and George Bush Jr. was famous for the Bushism, and they were great. They were hilarious, and you just didn't think anyone would top them. And then, plenty of others that came along and topped them for sure. But while we got here, you were at CPAC. We were there. I'd like to get your thoughts on that while we're talking about it. We were both there. We saw.
Yeah, I was really impressed with 2 or 3 things at CPAC. One of them, the first thing that hit me when I was first coming in, I saw a bunch of Iranians. Now, I didn't know they were Iranians, so I went and asked them who they were. And they said, we're a bunch of Iranians. And I said, well, it looks like you're thanking the United States of America and you're thanking President Trump. And they said, that's exactly what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So I thought they were there protesting. And I guess in a way they were. There
were some outside further down from the hotel and that sort of thing. We got invited to one. We had a friend who actually attended, not a protest against, but just a protest in favor of what was happening over there, and kind of, showing their appreciation. Some of that now has gone from, complete congratulations and adulation to we're not sure what's happening anymore at this point. A lot of that has come up against the thing that's dividing the right now. I mean, have we accomplished what we set out to do? Why are we still there? Do we have a clear exit? There are just so many questions, and no one really seems to know I know we win every day because Trump lets us know that we've won today.
Yeah. And the war's over.
The war's over, but they've been defeated, but we're still there. And I'm hoping we get out of there quick. That's my hope. I just don't see any more anything else that needs to be accomplished at this point. We're not going to beat the idea of what those guys believe in and have done for 3,000 years. It's not going to be stamped out by us in Israel in a couple of months. It's not.
Well, I would really like to make sure that they can't have a nuclear weapon, but because they'll use it. Now, Russia has a bunch of nuclear weapons. China has a bunch of nuclear weapons. France, England, a few other countries, and we have the most of anybody. Yeah. And I want to keep telling the wacko environmentalists, global warming is not the worst threat to the world. It's nuclear weapons. Those are the worst threat to the world. And there's enough there to completely destroy and annihilate the world 100 times over. Mm-hmm. And so I've always thought that they were way misdirected, and they're pursuing something completely stupid and bogus. But Iran will use them. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, it's because they're going to use it.
I worry less about them actually developing the weapon, because they had 60% uranium. They had it enriched to 60%. 2 weeks from 90%. 90% is weapons grade. But as we've learned, weapons grade uranium versus having a nuclear weapon it's not one and the same. My concern, my fear, was that China and or Russia would just give them one.
Give them one.
Because they gave them hypersonic missiles, and they didn't have those. And for all we know, we actually don't have those, because the last time we tested what we thought we had, they failed. So
that really sounds dumb for Russia and China, though, because if they know that Iran's going to use it, then they know it's going to have fallout reach them in more ways than one. Ramifications.
Yeah, financially and every other way.
Yeah. I mean, but I've never said that Russia was smart. The war that they've been in now, 4 or 5 years now, the Ukraine war. I mean, Why? Why does this have to happen? Why does war keep happening? And I don't understand the Muslim extremists who believe in killing innocent people, killing homosexuals and killing people who don't believe the same way, and killing their own family members who go too far Western. I mean, it just blows my mind. But another thing, too, is somebody I saw at CPAC and who I hold in high esteem and respect said that I'm against all violence. And I like to, first thing I want to say is, oh, yeah, me too. I hate violence. I hate war. And I hate killing. And in the 20 years I was in law enforcement, I thank the good Lord that I never had to shoot somebody. And I'm really grateful for that. But there was one time I probably should have, and I didn't. And it turned out okay. But a lot of cops said, you got lucky on that one. You should have shot that guy. But his son kept standing at his side, and I said, I'm not going to, my deputy and I had good cover. And I said, I'm not going to shoot this man in front of his son. Yeah. So I told my deputy, I'm not going to tell you when to shoot, but let's really be careful with this, with his son right next to him. And turns out he was in a meth rage, and we finally talked him into putting the gun down. And oh my goodness, I'm just, it was an answer to prayers. But at the same time, I'm glad that the founding fathers had the courage and the inspiration to go against the greatest military power in the world, and fight for our independence and to create the America that we're all mostly enjoying today.
I was going to get to that. Yeah.
But
feels like we're fighting for it all over again right now. I'm
fed up with the politicians, and I'm fed up with the Democrat Party, and I'm fed up with the Republicans who keep acting like Democrats. And I've got a book coming out with a co-author, Daniel Perkins, and I put together a book. And I wanted to tell both of you the name of the book tonight.
All right.
Are you sitting down?
Let's hear about it.
Maurice, are you sitting down? Okay.
Yep.
All right. The Democrat Murder of America. Demagoguery in the First Degree.
I think that's that's clickbaitish. You're going to get some bites on that. That's for sure.
I mean, not just that. I mean, it kind of actually defines the enemy of who's been destroying America over the past 50 years. I mean, you saw just recently that the Supreme Court ruled that the way Democrats were gerrymandering have basically kept them in power and have given them all this ability to destroy what we see, or at least what I was raised to believe what America is. They've wanted to change it into this socialist country, and to force us to be taxed more and more and more so we can support more and more of these incoming Democrat voters, these foreigners. So that it kind of hits the nail on the head as far as that goes. But I hope that you didn't leave out, the Republicans that have been actively going against what America is for as well, because that's been a substantial problem as of late.
We kind of made a disclaimer about that this one was going to be mostly about Democrats, and that Republicans have been guilty of a lot of it too. But every time I say that, it comes to my mind, and I just have to say it, and I'm going to say it again right now. The Democrats have been the Republicans have been infiltrated by Democrats, and the rhinos are mostly Democrats, and they're promoting Democrat ideals. But when people say the uniparty, I said, yeah, I can see how people would say that when it comes to the national debt. Both are culpable of overspending. And then allowing the IRS to commit all the crimes against the American people and to be such a rogue agency, and the income tax in and of itself, that both Democrats and Republicans will not rein in the income tax, will not stop the income tax, will not stop the overspending or the national debt. But when it comes to protecting life and individual liberty, the Democrat Party is horrible, horrible, horrible. and they're 10 times, as far as I'm concerned, they're 10 times worse than the Republicans on those key issues.
Yeah, we've definitely seen. Well, when Biden was in the Fifth District Court, ruled that he stepped on the First Amendment rights of Americans, telling, at the time, Twitter who to platform and remove, and Facebook pretty much the same exact thing. We've seen it over and over again. We're starting to see it on the right now as well when it comes to certain issues. When we talk about issues like what's going on in Gaza and these types of things, they are shutting that down. Almost like you can't even ask the question or talk about it. And it always strikes me funny when you're telling me I can't ask a valid question without trying to tag me as some type of a bigot or whatever for asking the question when my intentions are completely different. And I think that we have to watch it before we become what we've been fighting against. That's something I think that we really need to be on the watch for. But the External Revenue Service, as you brought up earlier, something that Donald Trump did run on getting rid of the IRS. I think a lot of people thought the 16th Amendment was supposed to be a temporary tax that they reinvented into what we have today. And now we have world banks, and we've seen history over and over again repeat itself when people try to move themselves away from those financial institutions. JFK famously created the silver certificate. He didn't last too long after he did that.
And
neither did Gaddafi.
And that's a key component of all of that. And right now, why in the world do we have a Federal Reserve made of international banksters who are not answerable to our government, who are not answerable to Congress or the president? They do anything they damn well please. And one man, Jerome Powell, now he's getting replaced. And I don't know why changing the name on the door will help too much, but maybe it will. But at the same time, the Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution requires Congress to coin money and regulate the value thereof. Do any of them do that? Does Congress do that? No.
No, they take our tax dollars and spend them recklessly. So that's not really coining money, but they really have been, like a 16-year-old girl with daddy's credit card, just on a spending spree over the past 20 years. I mean, it's been Democrats or Republicans, over my lifetime, at least for the last 31 years or 34 years. How old am I? 34 years. It's gone up over 12 times what it was, because I was born with, and our country was $3 trillion in debt, and now we're $39 trillion in debt. So I guess that's about 12 times.
And a key component of that, Maurice, is that we are now more in debt than our gross domestic product.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is really, if you look at that historically, that is really bad news for the American economy. Really, really bad. And
Sheriff
tell me
Mack,
how many
that's
Democrats?
why we have America only down there on that placard at the bottom on that lower third, because we're tired of being the sugar daddy for 200 other countries.
Right.
And we need to worry about this one.
And it's so saturated with fraud, and yet how many Democrats care about the fraud that Goj first was exposing? They were defending it. And even now, the governor of Minnesota, Walz, is defending it and blaming Trump. Of course these people did all this because Trump did. And I couldn't even imagine what he said that he did. But and of course, he still gets on late night television so he can tell everybody how wonderful Minnesota is. And you know what? I don't think I want to pay into that anymore. And I don't think I'm going to. You know what?
Yeah, there you go.
Ali,
I was going to say that's the answer.
Muhammad Ali taught us to walk away. And he did like he did from the draft. I'm walking away from paying income tax to corruption, fraud, and excessive spending. All of that is just ridiculous. And if you just took it pragmatically, let's just say The Democrats do not care. Most Republicans in Congress, well, a good portion, do not care if we overspend and spend money we don't have and raise the national debt another $1 trillion every year. If that does not matter, then why do we need to pay our taxes?
It's the biggest
Just add
threat
it to the national debt every year and go on and leave me the hell alone.
Yeah, it's the biggest threat to our security in this country is our debt.
Yeah.
Ron Paul said that famously, and I completely believe. But let me ask you another question on Tim Walz, because I've been saying this a lot lately, and I don't think a lot of people paid attention to it. Do you remember the man who worked in his administration 2 times and executed an elected official, knocked on her front door, dressed as a security guard, delivery man or something?
He had a mask on too.
Yeah, and shot her and her husband. Now, he wrote a letter from after he was arrested, naming Tim Walz as the person who sent him. And nothing else has been heard or said about this.
Yeah.
I'm blown away at the lack of anything happening.
I was glad that Comey got indicted, but I would much rather see that be Tim Walz and the Attorney General from Minnesota, Ellison.
Oh,
and that's not even his real name. He had to change his name so he could run for AG. But Minnesota is so corrupt, and then you go, oh well, so is Utah. Well, so is Arizona. Whoa,
so is Washington
State.
California.
You want to see corruption? Go to Washington State. They are right now destroying the office of sheriff, setting up a bureaucratic committee to say who can run for sheriff and who can't. And if they don't like the sheriff, if he doesn't do what he's told by the state, then they'll fire him and release and get rid of him. And
can they fire him as a constitutionally elected?
They're making it legal. They're writing laws to make it legal.
They just passed out laws saying they can, but so far they've been losing in court, and the sheriffs and chiefs of police in Washington State are suing to stop it. It looks like they got a temporary injunction, and then now there's going to be a people group, and this will be the 3rd time I've gone there since January, because we're going to be helping them do all this. And we had a big meeting there in January to try to make sure that we turn this around. And at first, some of the sheriffs were reluctant to even work with us on this. Now they're all working on it. And even the Democrats and Republicans are coming together there. And the Democrats and Republican sheriffs in Florida have probably set the best example for the entire country. They still have protests. They're peaceful. All the sheriffs are helping with deportation, and they're all trying to get rid of these horrible criminals that the Democrat Party and the Biden administration brought into Florida, brought into our whole country. And if Minnesota would follow Florida's example, they wouldn't have had people being killed, and we would be getting rid of all these criminals that the Democrat Party is still defending to stay in our country. And we're talking about terrorists, cartels, and human traffickers, sexual exploitation of children who actually sell children into the sex slave market.
That was a huge problem under.
I'm sorry.
That was a huge problem under Biden with the missing children that were being trafficked into the country, and it seemed like there was a distinct lack of interest from the Democratic Party.
Of course.
And as of late, they are still fighting for the foreigners and fighting for the human traffickers and the terrorists and everything of that nature. Now, I do want to say that maybe it's a bubble that I've been in personally online, but there's been a lot of concern and a lot of confusion over the fact that, okay, we say we care about the human trafficking and child trafficking, but then why, like, what's up with the Epstein files? Like, that has been talked about ad nauseum online. It's been a huge concern, and Trump seems to be not too concerned about it. Like, I imagine that this was going to lose the Republicans in midterms, but I guess with the recent SCOTUS ruling, maybe that's why he wasn't too concerned about it. But still, there's a lot of people that are very, very concerned about what's been going on with the Epstein files, and nobody knows, like, really why Dan Bongino and Kash Patel came out and said, yeah, Epstein killed himself. We have all the footage, and then they released like some very edited footage, and we haven't really gotten too much from that. But I don't know how to answer this when people are asking. Do you have any insight at all about what has been going on with that?
Well, yeah. First of all, there was a big story. Maybe it wasn't a very big story, but anyway, I found the story that the two corrections officers that were assigned to Epstein that night, actually one of them, a dark-complected female, and look, I ran a jail for 8 years.
She was the leak, right? She was the leak.
Yeah, I think
she
so.
got paid money too.
Yeah, and she had several very strange cash donations made, or donations. Oh, I should have said deposits made in her personal checking account that she really couldn't explain why they happened. And I said from the get-go, when they said that the cameras went down that were supposed to be watching Epstein's cell.
And an ad sag wing too. So it's extra security, every 2-hour walks, cameras, every angle. They're on suicide watch.
Right. And that means that he should have been moved to another place and put somebody else in there that wasn't. And in the 8 years that I was sheriff, do you know how many times our cameras went down? Zero. These are the top cameras in the world, and their prison was even better equipped and better backup for any sort of problem with that. So first of all, I said they were lying about that. There are immediate protocols that have to happen in order to protect, especially someone as high profile as Epstein. And so then, as you said, I think, Maurice, you said that some of the footage of the cameras that were working, there was like a 2-minute erase. Oh, I wonder why. Is that when they were escorting him out? Or was it when somebody went in and killed him? And so none of this adds up. None of it does.
Well, there's another story, and depending on who you believe or not, but the captain, the corrections officer that was there, quit within 72 hours of this incident, and supposedly made a statement that they wheeled someone out of there the night before on a medical stretcher. And then when you couple that, and this is what happens when you're
that came out of the Epstein files. That came out. They actually investigated because that was posted on Reddit that somebody was wheeled out and they switched him out. And then so in the FBI Epstein files, they went and investigated the guy and found him. And then nothing really came from it. But if it was posted on Reddit and the FBI took it that seriously, why did we get the information? The only thing that makes sense to me is that he's still alive and in a witness protection program of some sort, and the indictments are coming. That's the only thing that would actually save this entire situation that we've been in, because that's the only thing that would have any sort of redeeming quality, is that there are indictments coming, but I mean, realistically, the chances are slim to none.
But let's look at this. Let's put this in perspective. So people really wanted to blame Trump. Trump was charged with everything from bicycle theft to murder and rape, and they really went after him. If they had something back then, when Trump was a candidate for president for 4 years after his first term, why didn't they do something to him then? If they really had something in the Epstein files, why didn't they do it?
I agree with you. I agree with you. I don't think that this is an issue of whether or not Trump is involved at some level or did something where he could be charged. I think this is just one of those things where do something.
Well, yeah, but and still there might be some people that legitimately had a picture with Epstein because he was always giving money to politicians who didn't know that he was doing all this. And then because they took money or they have a picture with him, they're going to be implicated when there's no one really to back up any kind of evidence to that. And what I'm saying this all for is because there's no real evidence that Trump ever did anything with a girl under the Epstein case. Ever.
Yeah, all the tips came in late night, anonymous tips.
Exactly.
About people that wouldn't give names for and that sort of thing. But in the further release of the Epstein files, then it really starts to get a little more grimy, because then you have people that were close to Trump. You had Bannon, who evidently was helping Epstein repair his image and learn how to deal with the press and this sort of thing. And then the text messages came out.
Yep.
And at that point, it's kind of earth shattering, because we knew all these people around Trump were MAGA, and some of them got in big trouble. Some of, like Epstein Bannon went to prison.
Yeah.
Surrounding this. And so it really just leaves everybody is very, very confused and wanting to know what's going on. And I think the best thing the administration could do at this point is just transparency, because when you're not transparent, the internet's going to fill those gaps with whatever cooked up theory they possibly can. And that's kind of where we're at, and it's not good for anyone. And that's why I want them released.
Yeah. Well, again, though, look at the evidence against Bill Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Been to the island, 26 times?
26 times.
Had pictures taken with him in a jacuzzi with quite a young lady. Maybe she was of age. We don't know.
In a hotel room, too.
Wait, say that again?
He was in a hotel room, too, sitting in his birthday suit on the edge of a bed.
Yeah. And so, but wow, big surprise, Bill Clinton has extramarital affairs.
I think we all have accepted this by now. I think most people know whom Abedin is, and I think this is an agreement. I mean, just saying, I think this is kind of a well-known fact at this point within the certain circles. Everyone alludes to it.
Sheriff Mack, do you see the Trump administration, the Trump administration redeeming themselves from the way that they've handled the Epstein files, or do you think that this is something that's just not going to be addressed throughout his entire term?
Or basically, how would you tell him to handle it?
Well, I'm kind of 50-50 on it, because I believe if there was anything incriminating during the Biden administration, it would have been released. But I think if they were trying to protect all the Democrats who were on the list, so they backed off, because they said, hey, if we're going to start exposing everybody, there's going to be a lot of Democrats go down in the mix.
So mutually
and
assured.
So they backed off, and I think Trump thought, well, this is pretty much over. And Pam Bondi, I thought, made some real big mistakes on it. But then he fires her, so it doesn't look like she was working to help Trump, or at least it gives that impression. And so, does everybody on there, and I mean anybody and everybody, who ever participated in arranging for an underage girl to have sex with movie stars or politicians, I believe every single one of them should be prosecuted. Mm-hmm. But with just what the files, are the files going to prove that they had sex with young girls?
Yeah.
I don't think Epstein made enough files and kept track of who was having sex and who wasn't. And that's why I still think my number one problem ever is charging people with something they didn't do.
Well, they took a bunch of video out of the island, the little St. James Island, and Ghislaine Maxwell and I listened to that whole torturous 4-hour deposition between her and the FBI, stated multiple times that she never commissioned any video surveillance equipment inside of the home or the bedrooms, and that turned out to be absolutely false. And they took a ton of video out of there, but no one ever saw it. And then we kept hearing Well, next week, and then just most recently, Dan Bongino did it again, where he talked about the burn sack that they found that they were going to get rid of, but they found like a treasure trove of information in it. Now, he talked about that prior to stepping down, and we still haven't seen that.
But do we know why he stepped down?
No, we do. What we do know is that him and Pam Bondi were going head to head quite a bit, that they had some pretty big spats everyone talked about. And he one time didn't even show up to work on a Friday, just didn't come in. And they thought he was going to step down then, and it didn't happen until a few months later. So, it's hard to say. When you look at people with strong personality types, you look at Kash Patel, you look at Dan Bongino, they don't look sound or have ever given us any indication that they were going to be pushovers, easy to get over on,
Right.
Just do what you're told. They were more kick ass, take names, and that sort of thing. I think what threw most people off was, you're a police officer. You know as well as anyone else the body language of a person, not just the voice, the body language, everything about them when they're just not being honest with you. And if you go back and you look at that interview where she's sitting there with Maria Bartolovo and he says, "Trust me, he killed himself," there was nothing about that statement that rang true for anyone.
Yeah, I've never believed that, not for a minute. And our book points out that Marilyn Monroe did not commit suicide. Vince Foster did not commit suicide.
That's right.
Epstein didn't commit suicide. And this might be a name that you're not familiar with. Dorothy Kilgallen.
Oh, the one that was thrown off the boat?
No.
Was drowned?
No. Dorothy Kilgallen was a reporter and a national celebrity back in the early 60s. She was on The Price is Right. No. She was on What's My Line? And she was a regular panelist. And that was one of the beginnings of some of the early game shows. And everybody was always in tuxedo, and it was really and nobody was really funny. But Dorothy Kilgallen was really a very what's the word? A dog investigator. She was a bulldog investigator, and she took it upon herself to investigate the assassination of JFK. And she did it. She started it immediately, and she even came out publicly and she said, "The Warren Commission report is a joke. It's laughable." And I've said that too, so I hope they don't kill me too. But Dorothy Kilgallen died accidentally, the same way that Marilyn Monroe died. Barbiturates and drinking, or barbiturates and alcohol. And
so
then
the story with Marilyn Monroe goes, she was picked up by an ambulance earlier that night. Her housekeeper was the only one home. She was brought back by that same ambulance later and then placed in the bed where they found her the next day.
Well, we put a lot to that. But let me finish with Dorothy Kilgallen. So she's investigating JFK, right? And the police said, "Well, it looks like it looks like an accident. Darn, she just drank too much and took too many sleeping pills, and she died." And then, guess what? All of the notes and reports that she had done on the JFK assassination were gone. She's dead, and somebody stole all her reports and notes. Mm-hmm. And she was the only reporter that ever interviewed Jack Ruby.
Yeah.
And then here you go. And nobody did a criminal investigation on her death. She was just gone. And this is completely why we were trying to point out, this is what government does. This is what Democrats do. And lo and behold, Dorothy Kilgallen still waits for justice.
In that same line of thinking, do you think that the Charlie Kirk assassination smells of a similar fashion?
It smells is not the similar fashion, but it sure smells. And this is what I said about Charlie Kirk all along. Why don't you try investigating, some of the rumors and what happened? If there was nothing else but this, Maurice, we know one thing that happened horribly about the Charlie Kirk investigation. 2 days, maybe 3 days later, the crime scene is paved over
Yeah.
by the university, by UVU.
Yeah.
That
Weird.
was
That should
was
have been
strange.
that should have started a major investigation of cover-up and destruction of evidence.
I think the number one most common sense thing that I heard anyone ever say about this particular issue is that the PTZ camera that showed Tyler Robinson hopping off of that roof, that 13-foot drop to the ground,
Yeah.
would have been the same camera that would have caught him taking the fatal shot. Why don't they rewind the camera 59 seconds? It's the same view.
Yeah.
Show us any image of this guy with a gun and we will all leave this alone. But as of right now, the forensics say he was at a 9-degree angle on that roof in front of Charlie. He hit Charlie in the C2 vertebrae, which is at the base of the skull and the back of the neck. The only way you can do that from that angle is to go through his face. And no one saw that.
Yeah.
So
the entire thing
there are
is
questions. There are just
Yeah.
questions.
I really wish. I used to be a cop in Provo, Utah, which is right next to Orem,
Yeah,
Utah.
I love Provo. I'm out there all the time fishing. I love that place.
Yeah. Oh, it's great fishing. Yeah. But this whole thing just stinks, and I want to go there, and I know the sheriff there. I want to go there and say, I want to follow up on this. Please make sure nobody kills me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Joe Kent and others that pushed, prior to his resignation from the Trump administration. I mean, he just did this interview on Sean Ryan, which I think is, if one of the most telling interviews, most interesting interviews that I've seen in quite some time, where he said that he was told basically you're not allowed, no one is allowed to do any further digging into this particular case. It's done, and this is where it is. It's a very sad situation.
I got a question for you, Sheriff Mack, because I know that we don't want to keep you too long, but there was a sentiment before Trump got into office that that his administration was going to change the game in the relationship between the government and the people. And with something like the Charlie Kirk assassination and the debacle of the entirety of the Epstein files, and then seemingly going to war with Iran, and it doesn't look like there's going to be a slowdown. I mean, there's a slowdown right now, but it doesn't look like we're going to end that anytime soon. Looks like there's a lot of unintended consequences coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
There was a sentiment early on that relationship was going to change, and from what I'm getting is that a lot of people are concerned that it's business as usual with the Trump administration. And I don't know how to argue against that, because I've been a little demoralized myself and seeing that, we voted for a lot of these things and a lot of that isn't happening. And, as you know, I live in Washington State, and I'm very concerned with what's going on here at home with the Democrats. I'm incredibly concerned in trying to save it. And so I don't know how to tell people, like, we gotta push forward and vote for Republicans in the midterms. And, what do we do here?
Well, let me answer you. I think it's a legitimate question. I think it's a legitimate concern. But I go back to the very beginning. Who secured our borders? Who brought back national security? President Trump, immensely. And that was a big job. And then who freed the political prisoners of J6? President Trump. And not only that, but he did it for one of our best sheriffs in the country, Sheriff Scott Jenkins from Virginia, because the Biden administration and Biden FBI set this man up for a bribe, and there's no way. And he, the whole thing. I've worked with Sheriff Jenkins. He wasn't sheriff during that. He had to quit. He didn't run again. He was dragged through a horrible trial and found guilty because he was not allowed to present evidence that would have brought about his
Acquittal.
innocence. And then what happens? I'm fighting 7 months with every single person I know that has any kind of connection to Donald Trump. An hour before he was to leave to go to prison in Pennsylvania from Virginia, about an 8-hour drive, President Trump called this good man and told him he would be signing his pardon the very next day, unconditional pardon. This big, tough sheriff and I cried on the phone together.
Yeah.
And this takes me back to what I was telling you earlier. I cannot stand anyone being charged for something they didn't do and putting innocent people in prison. Democrats don't care about that. Trump did. And
Kamala Harris kept 4,000 men in prison beyond their terms, and one on death row for 22 years for a crime she knew he didn't commit until she was sued to release the evidence. But I think more or less, I think we all want to stop fighting the same fight, which is this Democrat fight. Just like your book, it probably goes into an immense amount of detail on. And I guess the fear is that if we don't start seeing some of these Democrats held accountable, if we don't start seeing Ilhan Omar getting locked up for 3 fraudulent businesses and
no kidding,
some of the most horrible things. I mean, the $76 billion in fraud in the state that I'm currently in right now in California, $12 billion over there in Minnesota, and just so many other states like that. We found it in Texas. We found it all over the place. But we see the average everyday person, 97 people indicted on the feeding our future fraud. And that, but what we don't see is anybody of any significance being held accountable. So the fear is Trump has 4 years. After those 4 years, that baton gets passed on, and now the political mind of America, they have very short-term memories.
But what is Trump really afraid of? And he's said this several times. He's afraid of losing this year, and he's going to be impeached again. And he said that. He's begging people to get out there.
I just don't think that would happen if the base were, just kind of revved up. And I think an arrest of somebody of some substance, something that crime that has been committed.
Do you think that's Comey? Do you think they did that with Comey? Like that? I mean, that is of some significance, but it almost feels like we're fighting battles that are like long past, right? Because a lot more people are concerned about like Fauci or Ilhan Omar, or
exactly.
a lot of things.
Bigger
like,
crimes.
I don't know what
these show crimes. I mean, they count, but
I'm glad Comey got indicted, but he's way down on the totem pole of being important.
Yeah.
You know? He is.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, sir, we kept you long enough. Please let's tell everybody about your book, where they can get it, and what you're doing next. I know you run around the country a lot.
Yeah, I do. And right now, the ebook should be ready within a few days, and it will be out there. It will be advertised at CSPOA.org. Folks, put that down, because I want all of you to make sure you get the book. But I want to make sure all of you know that there is a peaceful and effective solution that you can be a part of, and that's the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Oh, you're not a sheriff? You're not a cop? Good. You're their boss, and that's who we want. You're your sheriff's boss. You pay their salary. You form them, not the other way around. So become part of the CSPOA. Make a donation. Make a monthly donation. Be a part of a peaceful and effective solution for the holy cause of liberty. And folks, Jefferson warned us that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. We offer you an opportunity on a silver platter to be part of that great awakening and the great restoration of our Constitution. We must get back to our Constitution, or our foundation will die and the rest of the building of America will implode. Yeah. We're asking all of you to be part of the solution. CSPOA.org.
So guys, go ahead and do that. Go check them out at CSPOA.org. And if you can donate monthly, weekly, however they have it set up, and you have the ability to, it's time to be a part of the solution. We have to be intentional.
You got to start somewhere.
We're not going to save this country without being intentional.
Right. Well, thanks, you guys. Appreciate being with you. Let's do it again.
Yes, sir. Have a great one,
brother.
So, love that guy. I mean, when I retire, believe me, I'm retiring. I'm done. Yeah. So, people that do that have an amazing just a zeal, and they want to see change because he's doing it out of his own free time. He put in his time already. He served his country, did his job, and now he's doing this. And so definitely we want to be able to support him. These types of things, people go into, they have big dreams, and they have, they love the country, and they want to save it, and they see where it's going, and it's spiraling out of control. I think he has a little more hope than I do. I'll be honest. Especially when it comes to what's really going on with those Epstein files.
I mean, and I do got to be honest. So he did not give any pushback towards Bannon or towards what has already come out of the Epstein files. So kudos to him. One of the reasons why I like him is because he's never been afraid to say those things. And he's one of the guys in this country that are fighting for my little state of Washington, that is actually coming up here and trying to bring awareness. So I know that, I mean, a lot of people will kind of just be like, CSPOA and like, why in the big picture, what does that matter? But well, you know what? In states like Washington State, where the communists and the ultra lefties, Marxists are reigning, those things really matter here. And if we don't have anybody fighting for him, then we will slowly lose inch by inch. If I fight for, the Epstein files over this, then I will be in a worse position by next year. And granted, I will still mention the Epstein files, and I'm still very concerned about that, and the Iran war, and, all of that is a big concern of mine. But locally, if we don't have a sheriff that we elect, that has no ability or no intention to protect our Constitution, then we are completely screwed here. And we won't even be able to advocate for the Epstein files anymore. So
the votes don't mean anything. They can just put the guy in that wants to do whatever they want to do, and then becomes a higher fire position. That's never been the case with a sheriff in this country, and I wouldn't think they would be able to do that without a constitutional amendment, not just a law passed.
Yeah,
I mean, this has to go to the root of the matter, which is your state constitution. It has to be amended before this becomes
legal. They don't
legal.
care about that. I got to tell you, they don't care about that. I mean, when you look at Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution, it says the right of the individual citizens to bear arms in defense of himself shall not be impaired. Well, they've impaired quite a bit. Article 1, Section 29 states that the Constitution is the law of the land. And in order to change that, it has to be, what do they say? It has to be explicitly outlined. Like if you're going to write a law that is against the Constitution, it has to be explicitly outlined why that this is an exception, or why they can override the Constitution. But none of that's addressed. And so, I mean, if you look at just gun laws, it makes you can tell that the communists here, they do not care.
Yeah. Every state that has ever created any type of law in regards to your Second Amendment rights have basically violated Article 6, Clause 2, as well as your 10th Amendment rights. So, but what you never hear is anyone. I mean, there have been a few cases that have made it so far as the Supreme Court, but none that ever went back and slapped the hands of the states and basically say, hey, we are going to give you, 60, 90 days to become compliant with the Constitution, or else. We have seen them do that with other cases, and they typically give them a certain amount of time and say, you got to become constitutionally compliant within this time frame, or else your legislature becomes, in trouble. What's the word where you're held in contempt?
Yeah,
you're in contempt.
So Troll here says the Epstein files are the way to change the country. Letting it die is what the swamp wants. I mean, for the most part, I agree with that. But you have to be. I hate this saying so much, but you have to be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. You have to pay attention to what's going on locally, because especially in a state like Washington, where we are clinging on to our rights, we've just been allowing these communists to gain more and more power over time, to the point where now, I mean, they're almost in complete and total control. It's not quite there yet, but they're trying to override our last line of protection, which right now is our sheriff. And that's That's the only thing protecting any kind of constitutional mandates being, or constitutionally egregious mandates from our communist government come down the line. He's the only one protecting it. I mean, apart from, the people themselves actually standing up, which is what I try to advocate for the most, is
but having that happen in your area and for your particular political ideology is far from possible, I would think. So we had just recently, we had a judge tell a sheriff in Nevada that he had to release a man that had been arrested 35 times. He was an illegal immigrant. The sheriff said no, he has an ICE hold. The judge tried to demand that he let him go and not hold him on the ICE hold, and the sheriff told him, kick rocks. I'm not letting him go. I'm not letting him go. And that made the national news. And this is just how you know how much power sheriffs have. And I think that's a part of why your state is trying to remove that away from you, because now this is the one guy that has the ability to overrule them and not let someone go or arrest somebody or maybe arrest them.
Yeah, that's why they're trying so hard to take him out and select a new sheriff. So
who is your sheriff?
Keith Swank. And he basically came out right when he was elected, or before he was elected, and said that men are men and women are women. And the Democrats hate that. And so they've been doing everything in their power to try and remove him. And he's also said that mask mandates are ridiculous, especially for trying to regulate federal officers into wearing masks and trying not to wear masks. He's basically just come out and said, I want to protect the Constitution and the people's rights that are written in the Constitution. That's what he wants to stand on. And they passed a law, and luckily a court blocked it for now. We'll see what's going to happen here shortly. So I'm interested to see how all that's going to go. But in all reality, we need more people to stand up and more people to be paying attention locally and not just on the what's going on nationally. So as much as I want to say, the Epstein files are really important, and no, we should not let Trump just get away with what he's done. We also have to pay attention to what's happening locally and advocate for your rights in your hometown or in your county or in your state.
And we also have to remind him of something, and I think this is just what we're all seeing, and we're all a little confused. I don't think anyone who has ever watched Tucker Carlson in the last 10 years thinks he's low IQ. I don't think that any of the people that all of a sudden question Trump on his decision to be in Iran or stay in Iran or do the things that he's done, I don't think they're doing that because they're low IQ. I think that Joe Kent walking away the way he did, and then the propaganda war that ensued against him after he left, that turned out to be 100% false, is just another thing that people need to really wake up to and just start asking yourself, why is it that our president is advocating for Bibi Netanyahu to get a pardon before he leaves office, and Herzog, who is the president of Israel, just declined that request and said no? And there's stuff going on here, and just remember, when you're not allowed to ask questions, you're hovering over the target.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice to end on there, brother.
Yep.
We got another guest Wednesday, you guys. I'm pretty excited about this. Who do we got Wednesday? Is it Larry? Why can't I remember his name?
Yeah, it's Lance.
Lance Shuttler.
Yeah, Lance Shuttler. And Lance is a kind of a guy you can go down a million rabbit holes with. This is. I had fun last time. I had Lance on. And there were a lot of places we could have went. We didn't, because we had private conversations beforehand, and he's 100% on our right here on where we're at with most of this stuff, and he knows it very well. So this is going to be a good one. Now, starting as of next week, after this week, Maurice and I will be start putting together shows things that are going to be a little more topical, spelled out, educational, sound in the background, B-roll footage. We're going to get more into that. There's a lot of stuff that I think we want to talk about. And in the course of a conversation we get on here, it's hard to lose track of exactly what you really want to say or the message you want to get across. And I think over the last couple of months, there have been some things that have been made abundantly clear. And I think that if you're watching my X page, you know what they are because I've been relentlessly posting about them. And we're gonna talk about some of that stuff. And I think it needs to be talked about openly and fairly and honestly needs to be discussed.
Well, and it's going to cover a lot of topics that we've kind of covered as like a baseline, which includes something like, abortion or being pro-life or, why we are the way that we are, what kind of brought us to this point. And so it's not going to be just, the topic of the day necessarily. No. We're going to be able to cover a lot of what got us here because, I mean, over the past couple of years, we can't continuously cover why we believe what we believe. So I think it's going to be good to be able to have that in a video format that is complementary to, what the work that we've been doing and all that we've done over the past couple of years. So I think it'll be good. It's going to be, it'll be a step up from just listening to an hour conversation.
It'll be more entertaining
in a podcast form. Yeah. We'll make it good. So
it'll be a lot more entertaining. And when we get on topics, there'll be 2-3, videos in that series before we close it out and that sort of thing. And I think that you guys will enjoy that a lot more. I've done pretty good with these types of things in the past, and it's just time to step it up a notch, guys. And there's a lot going on in this world, and there are a lot of people confused, and it's not a conversation that you can have off the top. It's one that has to be planned, sat down, thought out, and delivered the right way so you actually get it. So that's what we're going to do.
And also we want to be able to help arm you guys with information and knowledge, and maybe even debate tactics.
Thank you, Diddy Girl.
I would say defensive tactics against, the way that lefties tend to debate, because that's one thing that I've really noticed that in like real life debates, where you're talking to someone, there's a very repetitive set of lines that tend to come out, and a lot of them tend to be surface level, but some of them are gotcha moments that are meant to pull you away from the topic at hand, and I really don't like that.
And move the goalposts a little bit. Yes. But some of the other things that we are going to cover are going to be right now in our political, spectrum that we're in. You're told there's a right, there's a left, there's a white, black, red, blue, liberal, conservative. And if you don't agree with this, you're not in this group. And if you don't agree with that, you're not in that group. And guys, a lot of that stuff, you got to let that go. That's that cult mentality. Yep. You got to learn how to critically think and look at each issue and not do it with your team jerseys on and think for yourself, because other than that, you'll throw your integrity in the trash to defend an individual or a person. And we really need to get away from that, because there's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and we have done our homework and a lot of it. And I can tell you this, I love Donald Trump. I love a lot of the people around him that he attacked. I like Thomas Massey. But to think that you either have to like one or the other, that's that brainwashing technique that I'm talking about, where they try to get you to say you have to be on one team. And if you agree with this one, you have to hate that one. If you hate that one, you have to love that one. Get out of that mentality.
Yeah, and you guys got to be prepared, because it's about to ramp up. We're entering the time of the midterms, and the political propaganda is going to ramp up, and people are going to be fighting for, you're either with us or you're against us, and it's going to be on all sides. And the communists and the Democrats, for the most part, they've been fairly quiet. They've been biding their time as of late. And so just get ready and be prepared.
The last 3 months will be, 3 months will be fanfare. It'll be crazy.
It's going to start kicking off. So, but tune in Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You guys, thank you for joining tonight. I appreciate it. Share this if you can, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
And as usual, the silent majority. You need to stop being silent. Stand your ground. Evil never retreats willingly, it must be beaten back. We'll see you again next week, guys, or Wednesday. Go ahead, you close it out because I have to reach way over there for a mouse.
Oh, okay. God bless you guys. Take care.
Midnight gears hum low. Guitars bend, pads breathing the slow.